All right, so now we've looked at one-step equations. Now we're going to kind of look at two-step equations. So what we do here is we use PEMDAS in reverse order to solve the equation. So first, we're going to add, subtract, and then we're going to multiply, divide to solve for the variable. And so what does that look like? Well, on our first one here, we have negative 8n plus 3 equals negative 77. Well, we want to get just that n part by itself. So that means we have to isolate this. So that means we need to get rid of this 3. So we're going to subtract 3 first. So we have negative 8n equals, now when we add those together, that gives us negative 80. Okay, so that's the first part. We add, subtract first, and now we're going to multiply, divide. And since we have a whole number, I'm just going to divide, and I'm just going to divide by that whole thing, negative 8. And I'll divide that by a negative 8. And so when I do that, it says n is equal to, and it's going to be, well, let's go ahead and that's a positive. Those are positive. That goes to 1. That goes to 1. Now 8 goes in here once. 8 goes in here 10 times. And so now we get n is equal to 10. Now does that work? Well, let's try it. Negative 8 times 10 plus 3 equals negative 77. Well, that's negative 80 plus 3 equals negative 77. And if we take 3 off of that, that's going to be negative 77 equals negative 77. So it does check out. Okay. Again, checking is always a good thing to do. How about this one? Well, this one we again need to solve for k. It's on the right side. It doesn't matter. So what we're going to do is get rid of that 7 first. So we're going to add 7 to both sides. So we get 7 equals k over 2. Now this is where multiplying by the reciprocal is going to help. So we have basically, if we think about that, 1/2. So if we multiply by the reciprocal is just 2, we can write it like that. Or if we want, we can write it as 2 over 1. But we multiply this side by 2 over 1 as well. And 2 times 7 is 14. And if we go ahead and cancel those things over here, that's a 1, that's a 1, and we just get k on that right side. So k is equal to 14. So let's test it. 0 equals negative 7 plus 14 over 2. Well, we can kind of reduce here. 2 goes in here once, 2 goes in here 7 times. So we get 0 equals negative 7 plus 7. Well, 7 minus 7 is 0. So that one does check out. All right, some more. Again, it doesn't matter where we start with our A or N. It all matters on, can you get to the point where you just have a single A or the N on one side and everything else on the other side. So we want the A over here, so let's subtract 64. So we have then, that's going to be a 10, that's 6, 7, 8, and it's going to be a negative, and that's going to be equal to 8a. Okay. Now we have something where we have to do the division. So we're going to divide by 8, and so a negative 10 is equal to a. All right. Well, let's test it again. Let's check. Minus 16 equals 8 times 10. That's a negative. And plus 64. So that's a minus 16 equals negative 80 plus 64. And again, you're taking the larger minus a smaller. So we can borrow. That's going to be a 6. That's 16. And so negative 16 equals sign of that's negative. So it's negative 16. Okay. And so it does check. What about here? Well, here, notice we have a negative here, but you know what? When we divide, we can get rid of that pretty easy. So since we have equals, it's not a problem. So let's add 4 to both sides first. So we have negative 3n equals. Now we have to subtract here, so it's going to be a negative 1, 2. Now we divide by negative 3. So n is equal to, well, negative divided by negative is positive. 12 divided by 3 is 4. So now let's check. Minus 4 minus 3 times 4 equals minus 16. So we have a minus 4 plus, now we have a negative 12 equals negative 16. And so negative 16 equals negative 16. So it does check out. Okay, so again, doesn't matter which side your variable ends up on as long as you get it equal to some number and it's only the number on one side and the variable on the other. All right, how about this one? Well, here we're going to add 3 to both sides, it looks like, because we have to get rid of this 3. So we have 3x equals, well, 3 minus 3 is 0. Okay, well, now we divide by 3. Well, that gives x equals, well, 0 divided by 3 is 0. So sometimes you end up with, answers you wouldn't expect, but now let's plug it in. 3 times 0 minus 3 equals minus 3. Well, this is just 0, so minus 3 equals minus 3, and it checks out. Okay. And again, always do your checks to make sure you have the right answer. All right, so let's stop here and we'll come back for more.